course I did have regrets. I'm 63 years old. Is it too late to realize this now? After all these years, I only just now realize that my family never truly respected me. Have I wasted too much time? But then again, why should that be the case? Isn't it always better late than never? My 64-year-old husband and his so-called first love, a woman of 59, don't seem to feel old at all. They live carefree and bold lives, even planning to embark on another passionate love affair. That thought brought back the moment I caught them in their lie. I had just reached the hospital entrance when I saw Franklin gently holding the hand of his so-called cousin, Evelyn. His voice, soft and tender, sent a chill down my spine. "Evelyn, darling, you need to take care of that injury. Once you're out of here, we'll head home together. Margot will continue looking after you. I'm sure you're pleased with her as your housekeeper." Evelyn smiled, her voice light. "You're so kind. I don't know what I'd do without you. This fall really made me realize I'm getting old." Franklin chuckled, teasing. "So you're admitting you're getting old? Didn't you just say you'd go hiking with me once you're better?" "Of course," she replied with a grin. "I couldn't break our promise." The other people in the room watched, their faces full of envy. "This couple is so sweet. Their bond is really something." Franklin spoke again, his tone soft and sentimental. "She was my first love when I was young. Oh my, how romantic. You two really are a match made in heaven." They exchanged a smile. No explanations, no corrections. No one knew the truth. They weren't even a couple. I stood frozen at the doorway, my hand trembling so much I nearly dropped the insulated lunchbox. Inside it was the soup I had spent the entire morning preparing. A light, nourishing meal specially made for a patient. Franklin had always been brief and to the point in his messages. But ever since his so-called cousin was hospitalized, he'd been sending me long, drawn-out voice notes every single day, telling me exactly how to cook, how long to simmer, what ingredients to use, insisting that I make a soup that was both nourishing and delicious. Meanwhile, I was running back and forth, taking care of things at the hospital, then rushing home to look after the rest of the family. I barely had a moment to close my eyes. And yet, it turned out she wasn't a cousin at all. I was still standing at the doorway in a daze when I heard someone inside the room say, "Sir, the caregiver you hired is really impressive. So thoughtful and professional. I've been swamped at work lately and need someone to help take care of my father. Could you share her contact information?" Franklin froze for a split second, then gave a vague, dismissive answer, carefully dodging the question. And just like that, I felt a cold wave rise in my chest. He didn't even try to correct the misunderstanding. To protect the dignity of his beloved first love, he was perfectly willing to let me, his wife, be mistaken for a hired housekeeper. A rush of anger surged through me. I nearly stormed in and ripped both of them apart with every word I'd been swallowing for days. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror at the end of the hallway. Evelyn, with her broken bone and refusal to lift a finger, hadn't needed to do anything for herself. I'd been the one bathing her, changing her clothes, cleaning up after her, day in and day out. She had all the time in the world to keep herself polished. Lipstick perfectly applied, hair pinned up in a graceful twist, sitting in that hospital bed looking elegant and refined. Franklin sat beside her, aging but still sharp and dignified. He was wearing a crisp, neatly pressed shirt, the very one I had ironed for him myself, not a wrinkle in sight. And then there was me. The mirror reflected a worn-out old woman with messy hair and a pale, tired face. I was wearing a loose, cheap shirt and baggy pants, holding an old chipped food container in my hand. I'd taken the bus to save money, sweating the whole way, silver strands of hair stuck to my damp forehead. I looked nothing short of pitiful. The contrast between me and the two people in that room couldn't have been more stark. It was like we belonged to different worlds. But once upon a time I was that charming girl too. I had my own youthful glow. I had once been admired, courted, cherished. Now all that was left of me was exhaustion, and the fading warmth of a pot of soup. Anger twisted together with shame and helplessness, swirling inside me like a bowl of bitter broth gone cold. And then, out of nowhere, a voice rang in my head, so clear it felt like it exploded from somewhere deep inside. "Margot, do you regret it?" I froze. My heart clenched so hard it felt like it might stop. The force of that single question nearly knocked the breath out of me. My knees went weak beneath me. It was such a simple question, and yet it sliced straight through me, cutting open everything I'd been too afraid to face. Do I regret it? I didn't even know how to begin answering that. What Franklin and Evelyn had done. Yes, it enraged me, humiliated me. But what cut even deeper was realizing that somewhere along the way, I had become someone so disposable in my own marriage. When I walked into my son Nathan's house, my palms were still damp as if I had just woken up from a nightmare. As soon as I opened the door, my little grandson Miles rushed up to me, tugging at my hand and shouting, "Grandma, I'm hungry." The sound jolted me back to reality. Life had given me no time to ease back into it. My daughter-in-law Dana shouted from another room, "Margot, can you grab the diapers? The laundry's almost done, and if it's not washed soon, there won't be any clean clothes left." I sighed. Just as I was about to head to the laundry room, my phone rang. The old, lagging phone took its time to connect, but as soon as it did, Franklin's familiar, calm voice came through. "I just got back from my business trip and I'm at the hospital. Why haven't you brought over dinner yet?" I froze. I forgot. I'm still at Nathan's helping out. They haven't finished the laundry, the dishes aren't done, and Miles has painted all over the place. I still need to clean up. "I get it," he interrupted me, his voice still gentle, but I could tell he was starting to lose patience. "Don't waste time with the unnecessary details. If you told me earlier you couldn't come, I could have arranged things differently. Evelyn still needs care. She can't go without meals. Finish up there and get over here when you can." I stared at the phone in my hand, its call still active. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Miles was still clinging to me, demanding that I take him to get a hamburger. Dana was shouting from the bedroom, asking me to change the sheets. The whole house was so loud it felt like I couldn't breathe. I stood in the kitchen doorway and suddenly a thought sprang up in my mind, like a voice bouncing back from the deepest part of me. "Margot, have you noticed? They never ask if you're hungry, if you're tired. They're just always taking from you. Asking you to cook, wash clothes, take care of the kids, taking all your time, energy, and patience. Maybe it's time you asked yourself, have they always been like this, or did you at some point silently allow it to happen?" I stood there, rooted to the spot. My heart began to ache and my eyes started to sting. When did I start confusing being needed with being loved? When did I stop asking myself what I wanted and only care about whether others needed me? I murmured softly to myself, as if finally willing to admit what had been in my heart all along. Maybe it started when I was young. Since I was little, I was taught that girls should be obedient, listen to their parents, then listen to their husbands when they're married. What they wanted I gave. I never said no. Memories flooded back like a rising tide. I still remember the year Franklin and I got engaged. He held my hand and said, "I'm heading off to college. This home will depend on you now." My parents said the same thing. "Your brother's still in high school and we need money for his tuition. We can't afford to send you to college too. You should let that go." So I gave up my college acceptance letter and left everything behind. Even before we were married, I began taking care of Franklin's parents, treating them like my own, honoring them with the same devotion I gave my own family. Later, Franklin graduated from college and we got married. He landed a job teaching at a university, but his ambitions were bigger than just being an ordinary professor. I took a job at a local diner and even thought about enrolling in night classes to improve myself. But he dismissed it immediately. "Margot, where's that job going to take you? In night school? What about the house? Your job is to keep the home running so I can focus. That's all I need from you." I didn't argue. Thought he was right. I believed that was simply what I was supposed to do. Who would have thought that the man who stood so confidently in front of a lecture hall couldn't even iron his own shirt or turn on a stove at home? Days turned into years. Franklin's career soared. People began calling him a distinguished professor, a renowned scholar. Me? I was in the kitchen, in the laundry room, on the endless road of raising a child. Year after year I was worn down by life until all my sharp edges were dulled, until I could barely remember who I used to be. When our son Ethan grew up and started his own family, I thought I might finally have time for myself. But then he said, "Mom, we just bought a new house and with a new baby on the way, we really can't afford a nanny. We're counting on you." And just like that, the cycle started all over again. Cooking, cleaning, caring for Ethan's family. It all became part of my life as if it had always been written that way. The days blurred together. Then a thought crossed my mind. A nanny, a cook, a postpartum caregiver. Just one of those jobs would cost thousands a month. But I'm the wife, the mother, the grandmother. I do it all and no one has ever paid me a dime. Worse still, they've never even thanked me. They've come to believe it's simply what I'm supposed to do. That it's my duty. That it's natural. Something tightened in my chest, a heaviness I couldn't shake. I stood there, unable to speak, swallowing the ache rising in my throat. I looked out at the dusky sky and for the first time in a long while, I felt something fierce stirring inside me. An urgent need to change something. To reclaim something. Because if I didn't stand up now, the next 20 years would be just like the last. Drained, dismissed, invisible. Until I was too old, too tired, too broken to speak at all. I'm 63 years old. Even if it feels late, I can't go on doing nothing. I want to live with strength and dignity. At the very least, starting now, I need to learn how to say no. No to their endless demands. No to a life where I am treated like I don't matter. Even if all I can manage is one small change, it's still a start. I told Nathan that my back had been killing me lately and I couldn't keep doing this anymore. Taking care of everything for Dana after the baby. I'm getting older. I just can't handle it all. If you still need help with the baby, then hire someone. The words had barely left my mouth when Nathan snapped. Mom, how can you say that? You know we can't afford a nanny. You're not in pain, you're just being lazy again. His tone cut straight through me like a blade. But this time I didn't back down. A thought flashed through my mind. He makes $15,000 a month and has over $200,000 in savings. Can he really not afford to hire help? No. It wasn't about money. He just didn't want to spend it, because to him I've always been free labor. That thought gave me strength. My voice sharpened. I'm over 60. I really can't do this anymore. If you need help, then pay for it. Stop expecting me to carry the weight of your life for free. Even I was surprised by the firmness in my voice. All these years I'd never spoken to my son like that. But this time I knew I had to. And just as a little relief washed over me, another thought surfaced. Good, that's step one. Now tell me, are you really going to keep pretending everything's fine and keep serving your husband's first love like nothing ever happened? That scene at the hospital flashed back in my mind and a sharp pain shot through my chest. I shook my head softly. No. I won't. Not because of love or unforgettable past or any of those outdated sentimental words. But because of dignity. I refused to let myself be treated like this anymore. I picked up the food container and went to the hospital one last time. Franklin wasn't in the room. Evelyn was chatting with a nurse, telling grand stories about her glory days performing with an orchestra overseas. When she saw me walk in, she offered a casual little smile. Margot, could you wash my towel for me? And this mattress is way too firm. Could you go pick up a cushion while you're out? She always called me Margot. Never Mrs. Whitmore. I hadn't thought much of it before, but looking back now, her tone always carried the same condescension those wealthy women used when bossing around their hired help. I didn't respond. I simply set the container down on the small table. This is the last pot of soup. Her eyes flickered. What's going on, Margot? Things getting too busy at home. She offered a saccharine smile. Well, maybe I'll have Franklin hire another caregiver. You've done so much already. I stared at her fake concern, and suddenly I laughed. If you want help, let your husband pay for it. Why the hell should my husband be hiring help to serve you? The color drained from her face. Margot, I think you're misunderstanding. She didn't even finish the sentence. A few people in the room, the same ones who had gushed over their sweet relationship days ago, were already looking over, eyes wide with curiosity. I didn't hold back. Franklin fed me some nonsense about you being a distant cousin. And I believed him. You've been sitting here playing the perfect guest, letting me wait on you hand and foot, while you and my husband lied about your relationship. I narrowed my eyes, voice cold. You're well-educated, well-connected, admired by everyone who meets you. But let me tell you, whatever decency you once had, you must have fed it to the dogs a long time ago. Her face turned pale, then flushed, her lips trembling, but she couldn't get a single word out. I didn't bother with another glance. I turned and walked out. She couldn't follow. Her injury kept her pinned to the bed, humiliated. The spectators who had been watching in silence began to whisper among themselves. Oh my God, so that woman is his wife? And she's the other woman. I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. Let them talk. That night, as soon as Franklin stepped through the front door, his face was dark with rage. He stormed straight into the study and pulled me in after him. Have you lost your mind? What the hell were you thinking saying all that nonsense at the hospital? If you had questions, couldn't you ask me in private? Did you really have to cause a scene in front of everyone? Do you think embarrassing me like that does you any good? It was the first time he had ever exploded at me like this. In our younger years, Franklin would occasionally say sweet things, call me a devoted wife, a good mother. But as time went on, he grew distant. Even if the affection faded, he had never lost control like this. Never stared at me with such cold, furious eyes, finger pointed in the air as if I were the one who had done something unforgivable. I looked him straight in the eye. I didn't feel angry. I just felt crystal clear. What did I do? I said, each word sharp and deliberate. Was it me who lied to my wife and made her wait on an old flame? Was it me who flirted with a former lover in front of strangers, pretending to be something we're not? Was it me who let my own wife be mistaken for a hired maid and didn't say a single word to correct it? Franklin clenched his jaw and took a slow, heavy breath, trying to control himself. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to overthink it. Yes, Evelyn was my first love. I admit that. We had a history, but we never crossed the line. I still married you, didn't I? I built a life with you for decades. She was alone in the hospital. Her kids live overseas. I just thought you could take care of her. You're good at that and I trusted you. Is that a crime now? Margot, you're letting jealousy cloud your judgment. Just because of something that happened years ago, now you can't even show basic compassion. He spoke like a man convinced of his own righteousness, wrapping his words in moral superiority, as if he were the only one acting with dignity and good intentions. I stared at him silently, not angry anymore, just deeply, utterly tired. I pitied myself. Pity for the woman who had spent a lifetime serving this man, giving him every ounce of youth, patience and identity she once had. So I said it plainly. Franklin, I want a divorce. The words dropped like a bomb in the house. Franklin's face went pale. He gasped for breath and sank into the couch, speechless. Are you insane? He barked, pounding his chest. You want a divorce at this age? Do you have any idea how humiliating that would be for me? What my colleagues and students will say? Nathan was even quicker to react, calling me the moment he heard the news, still at work. Mom, have you lost it? Do you even realize what you're doing? Do you know who Dad is? What kind of status he has? And who are you compared to him? You're really going to throw your good life away over something like this? My voice was steady. This is a decision I've thought through for a long time. You can try to stop me, but it won't work. I've already wasted too many years on a man who only thinks about himself, who never really saw me as an equal or even as a person. Nathan's tone turned sharper. You've just been idle at home too long. Now you're going stir crazy. I glanced at the stack of dishes still unwashed in the kitchen sink, the pile of laundry waiting to be folded in the living room. Franklin couldn't stand a single speck of dust in the house. He changed clothes at least twice a day. Every little detail had to be perfect. And for years I had been the one holding it all together. But he never saw any of it. To him it was just my job. My duty. Still on the phone, Nathan kept going. Mom, let's be real. Dad's way more educated than you. You've never really had anything in common. So what if he still thinks about his first love sometimes? That's normal for men. It's not like he cheated. You're both getting old. Are you really going to tear the family apart over some old woman? Don't you think that's embarrassing? My voice turned cold. So you think it's acceptable for your father to lie to me, just to make me care for Evelyn? That's not really lying, Mom. You're overreacting. What's the big deal? Bringing her some food, lending a hand. It's not like you haven't done this kind of thing before. Why are you being so dramatic? The moment he said the word dramatic, it felt like a cold needle pierced straight into my heart. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. My son when he was just a little boy. Back then, Franklin was always busy with work and I was the one who raised him day in and day out. He used to call me Mommy in his soft, tender voice and say, Mom, you work so hard every day. When I grow up, I'll make sure you don't have to work so hard anymore. But now, grown up and full of self-righteousness, he couldn't even imagine that one day he'd look me in the eye, because of his father's mistress, and say, Stop being so dramatic. I let out a bitter laugh and ended the call. I made up my mind. I was leaving this house and I was going to start living on my own. The day I packed up, Franklin stood there with a cold, expressionless face. Margot, stop being ridiculous. What exactly do you think you're going to do after the divorce? You're just a housewife. You've got nothing to fall back on. I straightened my back and replied without hesitation. First, I didn't do anything wrong in this marriage. And after the divorce, I'm entitled to half of everything in this house. Second, I've helped raise Nathan's child from day one. If he needs a reminder, I've been working like a full-time nanny for years without ever charging him a dime. Dana showed up shortly after, clearly rushing over after hearing from Nathan. He tried to soften the tension. Margot, we're both women. I understand your pain. What Franklin did was wrong, no doubt about that. But don't let this one incident cloud your judgment about marriage. I almost felt a flicker of softness in my heart, until she kept going. Miles was raised by you too. This home just wouldn't be the same without you. That snapped me right back into clarity. I looked at her calmly, letting her finish her well-meaning but selfish plea. Then Franklin spoke again. Dana, don't waste your time. She's been married for 30 years and never held a real job. What does she know about how hard it is to earn money? I've worked my whole life so she could enjoy hers. And now she wants to throw everything away over this nonsense? I've never seen a more selfish wife. His eyes turned colder by the second. Margot, I'm not giving you a cent. Once you burn through the last bit of grocery money I gave you, you'll come crawling back. I won't lie, when I stepped out that front door my heart was pounding with fear. At my age it was the first time I'd ever walked away from this family trying to figure out how to stand on my own. The world outside felt unfamiliar, overwhelming. But I was lucky. A few close friends, upon hearing what had happened, came forward to help me. They pooled some money together to get me on my feet, and just like that, I officially began living alone. No more cooking for a house full of people. No more laundry for everyone. It was strange at first, almost unsettling. I hadn't realized how long 24 hours could feel when no one was pulling you in 10 different directions. Sometimes Franklin would still text me. Margot, where's that blue shirt I used to wear? Did you pack away those socks? The food at the campus cafeteria is awful. I miss your pasta. Dana messaged too. Margot, stop being so stubborn. Miles has lost weight without your healthy meals. She even sent a video of Miles calling out, Grandma, come home. I knew I shouldn't let any of that get to me. I'd made the right decision. Raising a child is their responsibility, not mine. And I didn't owe anyone guilt. I had done nothing wrong. Days passed. I tried looking for work, but most companies turned me away because of my age. I started to doubt myself. All I know is how to cook and clean. Maybe I really am useless. But then a quieter voice inside me would push back. Cooking is a skill too. Still, even small diners didn't want an elderly woman in their kitchen. Finally, a small local eatery offered me a trial run for a few days. They wanted to see if my cooking could keep up. The place wasn't large. Just a dozen or so regular students who came by for meals, and occasionally a few tired young professionals too lazy to cook after work. I cooked there for a week, poured my heart into every dish. But then the owner brought in a new chef. The woman looked at me with a polite but distant smile. Margot, it's not that I don't appreciate your effort. But some of the students mentioned they were uncomfortable, said they were worried about food hygiene because of your age. I stood there for a few seconds stunned. I knew it was just an excuse to let me go, but I couldn't find the words to argue. I hated myself for not being more cautious, for not having a better plan, for not preparing a safety net. But I didn't let the disappointment linger. I brushed it off, exhaled slowly, and whispered to myself, it's okay. Where there's a will, there's a way. The next morning, I carried a steaming pot of chicken soup to my neighbor Jasmine's door and gave it a gentle knock. She was a young woman in her 20s, always rushing in and out, working long hours. I knew she had a tough job. As soon as she opened the door and caught the scent, her eyes lit up. Oh my God, what is that? It smells amazing. She took the bowl from me and downed it in one go. After the last sip, she let out a satisfied sigh and laughed. This is incredible. After a night shift, getting to drink something like this, it's heaven. Margot, if you ever opened a little diner, I'd be your first customer every day. I watched her expression carefully and ventured, the other day at that little eatery, I overheard you and your friends talking. You said you missed real home-cooked meals, but you didn't like squeezing in with all the students at those spots. Jasmine nodded. Totally. I'm sick of takeout, restaurant food's expensive, and cooking for myself? That's just not gonna happen. I told her everything, how I'd been let go from the diner, how I was trying to figure out a way forward. Then with a bit of nervousness I asked, if I cooked at home would you and your friends be interested in ordering meals from me? Jasmine paused, thinking it over. I quickly added, don't worry, I've been married to a man who had obsessive cleanliness standards. So when it comes to hygiene I'm meticulous. I've spent decades in the kitchen, there's nothing I don't know how to make. And if you ever want something different I can learn. I really mean it. Jasmine smiled politely. Let me think about it and get back to you. My heart sank a little. I knew what that meant. Let me think about it. Most of the time that's just a gentle way of saying no. But to my surprise, the next morning, just as I was about to head out to look for work, I opened the door and found Jasmine standing there, with a few friends behind her. Margot, we talked it over. We think your idea is great. We're happy to prepay for weekly meals, if that works for you. Just like that, my bank account began to grow. But more importantly, for the first time in decades, I earned money through my own hands. I couldn't stop smiling. A warm, unfamiliar pride bubbled up in my chest. So this is what it feels like, to make something of your own. Turns out, being good at cooking really is a skill in this world. My family had never seen it that way. To them, it was just something I was supposed to do. Nothing more. Nothing special. Nothing worthy of acknowledgement. But now I was starting to believe, maybe it was something after all. As time went on, Jasmine and I grew closer. She often vented during meals, ranting about her overbearing boss, how they squeezed every ounce of energy from employees, refused raises and treated them like machines. Little by little I began sharing my own story too. After hearing everything she was furious. Margot, your family was awful. I thought stuff like this only happened in melodramatic novels. I let out a quiet laugh, though there was a dull ache in my chest. I've known the truth for a long time, and maybe that's what makes it even harder. Sensing my mood shift, Jasmine quickly changed the subject. By the way, Margot, those shrimp you made yesterday were amazing. How did you cook them? Will you teach me? I started walking her through the steps. She listened intently, nodding at each part like she was taking notes. The next day she sent me a photo. It was her own version of the salt and pepper shrimp. I chuckled and teased, didn't you say you were a disaster in the kitchen? Looks like you picked it up pretty quickly. She replied with a playful emoji and wrote, that's because you explain things so well. I paused for a second, struck by a sudden realization. Wait, am I actually good at teaching people how to cook? Jasmine had never set foot in a kitchen, but she understood everything I said. Clear steps, logical instructions, easy to follow. And then another thought hit me. What if I filmed these recipes? What if I taught people how to cook through short videos? My heart skipped a beat. The idea lit something inside me I hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement, purpose, maybe even hope. Could this be a path forward? One I never thought of before? I felt thrilled but also terrified. Who would watch an old lady like me teach home cooking? Isn't that stuff just for young people with fancy lighting and perfect kitchens? Would anyone even care? My head swirled with self-doubt. I started listing all the reasons why it wouldn't work. But then another voice chimed in, quieter but firm. You're going to cook anyway, aren't you? It's not like you're wasting anything. Just a bit of time and effort. And what if someone actually likes your cooking style? What if it grows into something more? Paid orders, maybe even a little ad money. A more practical thought surfaced. Even if it flops and no one watches, the worst-case scenario is I go back and admit I failed. But right after, I clenched my jaw and said out loud, almost defiantly, why should I admit failure? I haven't done anything wrong. And I realized, I wasn't saying it for anyone else. I was saying it for me. Because my entire life, from childhood to old age, no one had ever encouraged me to try something new. No one had ever told me I could carve my own path, that I was allowed to dream beyond the kitchen sink. I thought of Franklin. The truth was, even in our early years of marriage, I'd sensed Evelyn's presence in his life. But by then we were already living together, already building a home. I tried to reach into his world once. I remember the time he was away on a business trip. I walked into his study and picked out a few of his books, hoping I could understand them, hoping we could have something to talk about. When he came back, he looked at me with that cold, distant gaze. You went into my study? He asked. There was something sharp in his voice. I laughed awkwardly, trying to lighten the mood. I just borrowed a few books. I wanted to see what you're interested in. Maybe we could talk about them. He narrowed his eyes. You want to talk about Nietzsche? Do you even understand any of it? I smiled sheepishly. Not really, but maybe you could teach me? He shook his head with a smirk. Margot, that stuff isn't for you. You wouldn't get it. You just focus on running the house. Don't waste time on things that don't suit you. After a few rejections like that, I stopped trying. I learned to keep quiet. Learned not to embarrass myself by reaching beyond the roles he set for me. Looking back now, that was the moment I got trapped in a label. A life defined by kitchens and laundry rooms. A life I stayed stuck in for decades. I started researching how to film videos, how to edit footage, how to create something people would actually want to watch. A week later, I signed up for a TikTok account and named it Margot's Kitchen. Then I uploaded my very first video. In front of the camera, I was clearly nervous. My voice even wavered a little as I said, "Hi everyone, I'm Margot. Today I'm going to show you how to make a light, comforting vegetable soup, and share a few tips on how to make pork ribs tender and flavorful." I filmed the entire cooking process, walking through each step and explaining the little techniques I'd picked up over decades in the kitchen. When I posted the video, I didn't expect much. And sure enough, there were no surprises. Views trickled in slowly. Most of the likes and comments were from Jasmine and her group of friends. I was a little disappointed, though I couldn't say I was surprised. The platform is full of beautiful young people. Flashy edits, snappy jokes, trendy background music. Who would spend more than a few seconds watching an old woman like me boil soup? But a few days later, I opened the app and noticed something different. New comments had popped up beneath the video. "Mom, are you kidding? Who wants to watch a wrinkled old lady cook? Mom, if you've got this much free time, why aren't you home helping with the grandkids instead?" My hands trembled with anger. It wasn't hard to guess where these came from. I asked Jasmine, and sure enough, since I'd used my personal phone number to register, TikTok had automatically synced my contacts and recommended the account to people in my address book. She quickly helped me disable the sync feature and patted my shoulder. "Don't take it to heart, Margot. Everyone starts from zero. You've got the cooking down. That's not the issue. You just need to keep working on the content. Watch how other creators in the same niche shoot and edit. Let's learn together, one step at a time." Her words genuinely moved me, and they reignited a small spark of confidence. I whispered to myself, "This time I'm not giving up so easily." This was the first time in my life I was working towards something entirely for myself. I wouldn't let a few cruel comments crush me. I was going to see it through. From that day forward, aside from cooking for my little group of regulars, I spent almost every spare moment learning. I studied how to make my videos more dynamic, how to edit them more cleanly, which shots were unnecessary and which angles captured the food best. I joined a few online creator groups, mostly made up of young people. But instead of mocking me for being in my 60s, many of them encouraged me. "You're amazing," one person said. "You work harder than most of us." And so, day by day, I kept uploading. Gradually, things started to shift. People began leaving comments like, "I can't eat dinner without your cooking videos playing in the background. It's so comforting." Others messaged me directly, asking how to make beef stew with potatoes, or how to stir-fry vegetables so they stay crisp. Before I knew it, I had a few thousand followers. And they started calling me something that made my heart warm, Grandma Margot. For the first time in my life, I felt a kind of confidence I'd never known. Not because someone handed it to me, but because I built it. One video, one recipe, one hard-earned step at a time. It was that day when Franklin showed up at my door. The moment he stepped inside, his eyes scanned the room with a clear, unspoken disdain. He saw my phone stand on the kitchen counter, the camera light set up, and raised an eyebrow, muttering, "I thought Nathan was joking, but I see you really are doing this stuff now." I responded coolly, "If young people can do it, why can't I?" His lips curled into that familiar sneer I had known for years. "A short video creator? Are you serious, Margot? Do you even understand how this works?" "I didn't know at first, but I can learn," I said, holding his gaze. Franklin shook his head, wearing that condescending look I knew so well. "Margot, this isn't something a woman your age should be doing. You've been a housewife for 30 years. Why start messing around with this now?" His words made me both angry and incredulous. "Franklin, how could you say something so beneath you? Isn't that what you always preach? Live and learn, lifelong learning?" I raised an eyebrow. "Why is it okay for you to keep learning new things, but when it comes to me, I'm not supposed to?" "You're getting older too, but you still travel all over the country to attend academic conferences and workshops. Isn't that a waste of time too? He was caught off guard, muttering under his breath, I'm not like you. Yes, we're not the same, I replied softly, but the smile I gave him was cold. You've never considered us equals. You've always thought you were above me, like I was just someone destined to revolve around you. Franklin hesitated, unable to argue with my words. A moment later he spoke quietly. I admit I've always felt like we're not on the same level. I believe Evelyn is the one I truly connect with, someone I can share my mind and soul with. But I still kept my promise. I married you. I've spent my life with you. What more do you want? Hearing him say that wiped away the last traces of tenderness I might have had. I looked at the man who had been with me for 30 years, my tone laced with bitterness. You want me to be grateful that you married me? You think I should just willingly waste my life on you, on your family, in the kitchen and doing chores? You never thought my sacrifices deserved respect. You only saw me as a clueless housewife, someone who wasn't supposed to learn, wasn't supposed to get better, wasn't supposed to live for myself. I had never spoken so openly to him before, never pierced through his ego with such bluntness. Franklin's face turned from pale to flushed, struggling to find the words. I stood there, but in my mind a line I had read long ago echoed in my mind. You can't take away a woman's wings and then blame her for not flying. I couldn't remember where I had read it. Maybe it was a line from a book I had secretly browsed through. But this time I finally understood its full meaning. Franklin, you are the one who's been terribly wrong. You can't fill my life with pots and pans, then stand on some moral high ground, laughing at me for not understanding the poetry and vastness of the world. That day Franklin left my house with a face as dark as thunder. The very next morning, a courier arrived with the signed divorce papers. I laughed and sincerely praised him. Well, it's about time. You finally came to your senses. Now he could dive into his so-called great romance with Evelyn, out in the open without the burden of pretending. But Franklin just shot back coldly. Nathan was right. You really are throwing away a perfectly good life just to prove a point. If you're so desperate to stir up drama, fine. I'll give you what you want. I'm just curious to see how you'll survive without me. I didn't bother to argue. Not long after, Dana called me, her voice laced with complaint. Margot, can you believe this? Franklin actually brought Evelyn home to live with him, bold as ever, not even trying to hide it. Turns out, Evelyn had just finalized her own divorce before returning to the country. Over the years, Franklin had raked in plenty of income from speaking engagements and seminars. When we divorced, I received my rightful share of the marital assets. But the moment the money hit my account, Nathan and Dana started finding all kinds of ways to ask me for it, always under the guise of doing it for Miles. I didn't sugarcoat my response. You're his parents. Raising your child is your responsibility. If your lifestyle exceeds your means, maybe it's time to stop pretending you can afford it. Nathan immediately lashed out, calling me selfish, accusing me of not acting like a mother at all. But once Evelyn moved in, his tone changed overnight. At first he was anxious, worried Evelyn might be there to stake a claim on the inheritance. But when she started throwing money around, buying gifts, signing Miles up for expensive extracurricular classes, even teaching him violin herself, Nathan's attitude flipped instantly. Suddenly he was all smiles and good manners. He even had the nerve to take a jab at me. Mom, look at Evelyn. She's not even my real mother and she's more generous than you. No wonder Dad would rather be with her. I gave him a cold smile. You're just like your father, entitled and ungrateful. I only hope Miles doesn't grow up to be just as selfish and spineless. A few days later, Nathan pulled out the very same TikTok account he'd once used to mock me and uploaded a new video. The screen showed a golden sunset pouring into the living room. Evelyn stood by the window playing the violin while Franklin sat nearby, smiling at her like a love-struck schoolboy. The caption was nauseatingly sentimental. 30 years have passed. Their hair has grayed, their faces aged, but the way he looks at her has never changed. The video unexpectedly went viral, even landing on the trending page. The comments section exploded with praise. This is what true love looks like. They're such a perfect match. Now this is what soulmates are made of. Some even recognized Franklin, calling him a respected college professor. Others chimed in, revealing Evelyn's past as a violinist in a prestigious orchestra, even noting that the two had once been college sweethearts. Nathan quickly sent the viral video to me in a private message. Mom, you've been grinding on your little cooking channel for months and barely gained followers. One clip of Dad and Evelyn and boom, instant hit. Look how much more appealing they are. I smiled and wrote back. Well then maybe I should start sharing the not-so-pretty parts of their past with a few gossip pages. I'm sure that would go viral even faster. Nathan snapped back. You don't even have proof. Who would believe you? I didn't bother replying after that. I had better things to do. I stayed focused on my own life, still filming my videos, still cooking, still sharing slices of my world. And for the first time in a long while I felt like I was living it on my own terms. My follower count kept climbing, and the engagement on my content grew stronger by the day. Then one day I received my very first paid sponsorship. The moment I hung up the phone I was so thrilled I spun around the room, laughing out loud like a girl who'd just gotten her college acceptance letter. I grinned to myself and said, see? Who said I couldn't do this? Maybe it was because they saw I was actually making money. Nathan soon jumped on the bandwagon too. He started filming his own videos, crafting a persona around the warmth of a middle-class family, with his star players being none other than Franklin and Evelyn, the perfect intellectual, graceful couple in their golden years. His videos were filled with scenes of the two of them cooking side by side in the kitchen, strolling in the garden hand in hand, teaching Miles how to play violin together. Sometimes he even pulled Miles into the frame trying to stage the image of a picture-perfect, loving household. I couldn't help but recall the days when I was the one taking care of Miles, dropping him off and picking him up from preschool, taking him to the park on weekends, pushing him on the swing, kicking a soccer ball around. But Evelyn, she had a completely different approach. She took him to elite enrichment programs, music immersion classes, museum lectures, even horseback riding lessons. In one video, Miles looked straight at the camera, smiling sweetly and saying, "Grandma Evelyn, you're so pretty and elegant. You can even play piano. You're way better than my other grandma." Watching that clip, I didn't feel much. After all, children rarely speak without influence. It was clearly something the adults fed him. Sure enough, someone commented under the video, "Kids shouldn't be taught to compare and diminish their real grandmother like that." Nathan was quick to clap back in the comments. What's wrong with telling the truth? My biological mother abandoned her husband and her family. She doesn't even care about her own grandson. My stepmother is 1,000 times better than she ever was. I stared at his comment, stunned by the absurdity of it all. He really was trying to script a narrative, painting me as the villain so their staged little family could shine even brighter. I looked down at my phone and let out a dry laugh. They must have truly believed this would hurt me. But it didn't. Not anymore. Who they preferred, who looked more refined on camera, who appeared more nurturing, it had nothing to do with me now. Because what I had broken free from wasn't just a household, it was their power over my emotions. I kept updating my cooking videos, replying to meal orders, living my own life. Until that day when Dana called me in tears. Miles had fallen off a horse. By the time I arrived at the hospital, the hallway outside the ER was in chaos. Evelyn looked completely unraveled. No trace of her usual poise or elegance. Nathan was sitting on the floor, clutching Miles in his arms, face twisted with fury. Franklin sat in a corner, pale and hollow-eyed. Dana, voice trembling, filled me in. Miles was only 5, still at that wild, playful age. He'd found horseback riding exciting at first, but after a few lessons he started resisting it. But Nathan didn't want to lose a good video opportunity, and Evelyn had insisted, "Don't worry. Once Miles learns to ride, we'll get amazing footage. It'll go viral." They ignored his discomfort and dragged him to the stables anyway. And then disaster struck. Franklin sat with his head in his hands, voice hoarse as he mumbled, "Now you want to blame Evelyn? Weren't you the ones who agreed to it too? All of you wanted those videos, wanted the attention." Dana exploded. "How are we supposed to know it was that dangerous? She was the one who kept saying it was perfectly safe. And now that something's gone wrong, it's suddenly our fault." Evelyn scoffed, her voice sharp and cold. "What, I forced him onto a horse at gunpoint? I paid for the lessons and the riding school had safety protocols. He took off his harness himself. How is that my fault?" Then she added with a sneer, "This kind of nonsense happens when a kid is raised by an uneducated woman." Franklin froze. For a second, it was as if he'd heard Evelyn's true voice for the first time. I stepped into the hospital room, checked on Miles's condition, then gently comforted Dana. Franklin looked at me, lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. Evelyn had regained some composure by then. She gave me a cold glance and said, "What, you came here to gloat? Don't bother. I've got money. I'll cover all of Miles's medical bills. You people can stop bothering me." A few days later, Dana told me that Evelyn had secretly given Nathan a sum of compensation money, and Franklin had moved out with her. I went back home, sat in the kitchen chopping vegetables, and turned on a podcast. The episode happened to be about a woman starting her life over after a divorce. The host read a line aloud. "After I left, my ex-husband faced his karma and realized that his first love wasn't as perfect as he'd thought. He regretted it deeply." I couldn't help but laugh. Sounds a lot like my own life. I knew it was just a story, but sometimes, life really does mirror fiction. The reality, however, was different. Franklin was a university professor, and Evelyn had been a renowned violinist in a well-known orchestra. No matter how much they shook up their lives, they would still be fine. There was no dramatic, heart-wrenching finale here, just the quiet, helpless humdrum of life and restraint. All I could do was one thing: make my own life better one step at a time. I half-joked to myself, if I were the heroine of a novel, shouldn't some miracle plot twist happen now? I let out a bitter laugh. Those plots only existed in books. Life wasn't filled with coincidences or sudden windfalls. No one was going to hand me a happy ending on a silver platter. But then something unexpected happened. The very next day I logged into TikTok and saw my follower count had skyrocketed by over 100,000. At first I thought the system was glitching, but when I opened the notifications I saw what was happening. A new video had surfaced online, exposing Franklin and Evelyn's relationship in a way I hadn't expected. The video started with a clearly provocative tone from the host. "You think this is a sweet romantic love story? Well, the truth is even more dramatic than you could imagine." Then it cut to footage from the hospital that day. Franklin and Evelyn having a cozy conversation, admitting they were each other's first loves. And then, it cut to the moment I had exposed their true relationship. The comment section immediately exploded. "So this lady has been deceived by her husband, made to act as a free maid all these years? How cruel. These two used her like a servant. How shameless. From start to finish, the original wife has been stepped on. If it were me, I'd have gone mad." Of course, there were opposing views too. Let's be honest, the first wife is pretty average. If it were me, I'd choose the graceful violinist too. But these comments were quickly shut down by others. So being average means you should be abandoned? What kind of morals do you have? I hope your dad gets a second spring too. Let's see if you'll cheer him on then. The internet's emotions surged like a tidal wave. Jasmine didn't stay silent either. She commented in the section, "Margot is doing great now. If you want to see more of her life, go follow her account Margot's Kitchen." I watched my follower count climb faster than I could believe. I didn't know how the video had spread, but I knew this viral moment wasn't just luck. It was the result of every video I had posted, every update I had maintained, every bit of effort that had built up over time, igniting this opportunity. I also knew this kind of heat would fade eventually. What would stay, though, were the people who genuinely appreciated me. I told myself, buzz can come and go, but what I can do is keep making great content and stay grounded. I started working harder on my videos, improving my editing skills, researching trending topics, and analyzing what my audience liked. I shared everything I had learned over the years in the kitchen, explaining every little trick with clarity and detail. What used to be viewers who occasionally glanced, now became my loyal followers. They left messages like, "My mom cried watching your videos. She said she wished she had lived for herself at least once." And someone else wrote, "What I love isn't just your recipes, it's your resilient spirit." For the first time I felt like I was truly living for myself. My life kept getting better little by little, while Franklin and Evelyn became the targets of public scorn. The illusion of their so-called soulmate romance collapsed entirely. They became a laughingstock across social media, their carefully crafted image unraveling faster than they could contain it. Not long after, the two of them came barging into my home, faces flushed with fury. "Margot," Evelyn snapped, her voice sharp and shaking with anger, "you're feeding off our misery, milking our pain for your own gain." Franklin chimed in, bitter and accusatory. You're eating off the drama. Like a vulture. I stood at the doorway and let out a cold laugh. What did I do? I didn't film those videos. I didn't leak your little love story. I didn't manipulate public opinion. If you want someone to blame, try blaming your own filthy past. And even if none of this had gone viral, my channel would still be standing, because I built it one step at a time. My voice was calm, unwavering. If you choose to do shameful things, then you better be ready to face the day they're exposed. Those were words I spoke in passing just to defend myself. But as it turned out, they were prophetic. The scandal kept snowballing. Franklin's University couldn't ignore the growing backlash. Academic institutions care more than anything about reputation and public perception. The administration swiftly pulled him off the lecturing roster, giving him a polite excuse, a temporary leave of absence. Some of the more outraged netizens went further, bombarding the school with emails and protest messages. Franklin, a man who had spent his entire career basking in admiration, wasn't used to humiliation. He couldn't bear it. Soon after, he resigned. Nathan's account also completely tanked. Without the romantic glow of Franklin and Evelyn or the gimmicky horseback riding scenes with Miles, no one cared anymore. He quietly deleted the account. But worse was yet to come. Miles was left with a lasting injury from the fall. Dana wanted to take him overseas for specialized rehabilitation. The costs were astronomical. She demanded that Evelyn cover the entire bill. Evelyn exploded, accusing them of extortion and manipulation, claiming they were just trying to milk her for money. The fragile peace shattered entirely. During one particularly heated argument, Nathan lost control and pushed Evelyn at the top of the stairs. She tumbled down. The doctor later said Evelyn had underlying health conditions, and her previous fracture hadn't fully healed. This new injury would require a long and difficult recovery. When I saw Franklin again, I barely recognized him. The man who used to stand proud in his tailored suits, commanding lecture halls with confidence, now wore a wrinkled shirt and walked the hospital corridors, hunched and haggard, pushing a wheelchair with a frail Evelyn slumped in it. When he saw me, something in him crumbled. His lips quivered as he spoke, voice thin and broken. Seeing us like this, does it make you feel satisfied? I shook my head. Franklin, I don't hate you anymore. To be honest, I don't care what happens to you. Your life has nothing to do with mine anymore. He froze, staring at me, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. Margot, I made a mistake. I really did. I was blinded. I chased after the things I thought I missed in my youth, and in doing so, I destroyed the one person who stood by me for decades. You were always there, and I never appreciated it. Margot, do you think maybe we could? No, I said firmly, cutting him off. You're not here because you've truly reflected. You're here because the life you chose has fallen apart, and now you miss the comfort you once took for granted. What eats at you isn't love. It's bitterness that I ended up living better than you did. Franklin, you made your choices. Whatever consequences they bring, you're the one who has to carry them. As for us, we're done. I gave him a faint smile, my voice quiet but resolute. Goodbye. I wish you well. God bless. And with that, I turned and walked away. I never thought of myself as noble. I just finally learned how not to live a life of self-sacrifice. When I stepped out that door, there was no hatred left in me, no pain, only peace. I knew without a doubt that I had truly finally let go. In the third year of being a food content creator, my channel, Margot's Kitchen, finally hit 1 million followers. What started as a little home cooking series I filmed just for fun had somehow grown into something many people now called their daily source of comfort. More and more young people began pouring into the comments and private messages, sharing their work stress, family conflicts, emotional breakdowns. They told me I felt like their internet grandma. Some said the first thing they did after getting home from work was turn on one of my videos, just to hear me explain how to simmer a pot of soup or stir-fry a dish. To them, that bubbling pot in my kitchen was the only warmth left in their chaotic lives. I used to believe that life at this age was supposed to slow down, fade into silence one day at a time, but I never imagined that mine would start blooming in these very years. The sense of fulfillment didn't come from applause or follower counts. It came from learning what it meant to finally live for myself. Of course, I know life doesn't come with permanent spotlights and no one is guaranteed a constant source of support. This journey wasn't handed to me by someone else. It wasn't the grace of fate. It was just me, pushing myself to take that first step when everything felt darkest. It was me, fumbling in front of the camera, testing recipe after recipe in my kitchen, uploading videos even when I was at my lowest, refusing to quit in the face of mockery. It was me choosing not to look back. Every time I smile into the camera and say, "Hi everyone, I'm Margot. Today I'll teach you how to make a warm, comforting meal." What I'm really doing is reminding myself, no matter how old I am, I can always start again. I'm no longer the quiet, dutiful housewife in the background. I'm no longer anyone's shadow. I am me, a woman in her 60s who turned her kitchen into a stage and transformed pots and pans into a brand new chapter of life. I know one day this story will reach its final page. But until then, as long as I'm still alive, I intend to live each day lit from within. So I'll keep filming, keep cooking, keep reading, keep learning, keep sharing my life with a community of strangers who somehow feel like friends. I don't know how long my videos will stay popular. I don't know what the next chapter will look like. But I do know this. I will live well. From this moment on, every single day of the rest of my life will be lived for me, and only for me.